Welcome to Straight from the Muzzle, folks, where we are anything but straight. My name is Sparrow.
And I'm Space.
And today we will be talking about what?
Today's topic is Manokits.
That's weird.
It's always different when you do something. I thought we'd, change it up a bit. She'd do the intro and I kind of just do the whatevers.
It felt wrong.
It felt
dirty.
Like you felt violated.
But yeah, we are talking about Manokits, and this was a request, wasn't it?
It was. So earlier today, I put a tweet out there saying, hey, what species would you guys like us to talk about? And I saw that at Foxofish on Twitter mentioned Manokits. And I'm like, you know what? We haven't done that particular species before, nor have we ever done anything in that direction. So I said, sure, why not? Let's do it.
Yeah, because we've done angel dragons in the past on Furvilla, and we've had Eno on the show, and we've talked about original species as a whole, but we've never kind of done a deep dive. No pun intended.
Oh, wow. I didn't
boo.
Deep dive.
Deep dive. So on this semi-aquatic original species.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things we need to go over before we can talk about Manokits specifically. So the very first thing is Manokits are considered to be an original species. And it's been a while since we've talked about what original species are. So Sparrow, what defines an original species?
So overall, an original species is essentially a custom, unique creature of some kind that an artist will create and typically copyright under their own name online. And they often come with lore, but it's not necessarily required to. But minimum, it is a unique custom design that somebody makes.
And what can an original species be or look like?
An original species has to be truly unique and design, and if there is lore involved, then of course the lore would be unique as well. It can't be something that already exists, like a Pokemon or just an animal on its own. Now, that doesn't mean that they can't take inspiration from real animals. However, you have to take the inspiration from those real creatures and combine them and change them in a way that makes them a totally new animal, a totally unique animal.
Yeah, an obvious example of this would be Dutch angel dragons, right?
Yes, right, because Dutch angel dragons are inspired by horses and dragons, but you don't look at a Dutch angel dragon and think, oh, that's a horse-dragon hybrid. Right? It looks like its own unique thing. It has a more downward snout like a horse does, but it's still unique in its own shape. It has feathers and it has horns and it can have hooves or paws, right? There's a lot of different unique aspects that goes into a Dutch angel dragon that makes it separate from just a horse dragon hybrid, right? It's not just a hybrid, it's its own thing.
I just kind of had an idea pop in my head and I'm like, I don't know. It would be a hybrid, but it would be an inanimate object hybrided into a bear, and it would be like the moon.
Like a moon bear?
Kind of, yeah, except for there would be qualities of a moon that would kind of flow through the bear itself. So as the bear moves, it kind of leaves a trail of dust a little bit, like you would expect when you land on the moon.
Sounds ethereal.
Yeah, I don't like big words. But it seems like a really cool idea. But what can't an original species be?
So an original species can't be a simple combination or a hybrid of existing animals. I've seen this done a ton, especially with young people, right? Where they'll be like, oh, I have a dino dog, and this is my original species, and it's literally like a T-Rex mask or a dinosaur face of some kind with long ears.
Yeah.
And it just looks like a simple combination of two things. Or there's a lot of people who have catfish. So they take the pun of the word catfish, but it's literally a cat and a fish mixed together, right? It's not super different from a cat with fish aspects. That is a simple combination. That is a simple hybrid. If it doesn't look like a whole new animal or a whole new creature, then it's not necessarily an original species. And we'll probably get some heat for this. There's going to be some people who are like, what do you mean? I have an original species that's a raptor dog and you can't do anything about it. All right, sure. Okay. But don't go crying to me when somebody else or a ton of other people also have dinosaur dog characters that look like the
Right.
original species because it's a simple combination, or your dragon wolf character or whatever, right? So for example, one of my personas, Rory, she is a parrot and a dog. And she has mostly a dog body.
So she's a pog.
Okay.
Or a derrit.
That's poggers.
Boo! Even I'm so mad that you brought that up.
But she's mostly dog in shape, right? She has a dog head and a dog body. She has paws on her hands and her feet. Her tail has feathers sprouting out of it, and she has little wings, right? And her markings are like a Kaik parrot. But she still looks like a dog and a parrot hybrid. She's not uniquely shaped. I didn't change her anatomy much at all to represent those things in unique ways. She is simply a hybrid, and I can't copyright that. I can't go around saying, oh, I'm the owner of puppy parrots, and you can't do anything about it. You can't make your own parrot puppy hybrid, right? That's not right to do because it's such a simple, this animal with these other features added on to make a hybrid type design that it's not an original species. It's not unique enough to be.
And there might be some people too that'll be like, well, I've got lore behind it. I've got a whole background, and that's great. You can have a background behind your hybrid species or just behind a regular species, but that doesn't mean it's an original species.
Yeah, because you can have stories behind any persona, whether it's just a simple fox or whether it's a dragon wolf octopus cat. Like... You know what I mean?
And the other thing is, it's not to say that, like, your species isn't original. It's original out of your head because you're the one that designed it. And you're always going to be special. Every person in the fandom is special in their own little way. And their personas are special because they represent them or who they want to be. But there are rules to what an original species can and can't be. And if you don't necessarily like how we've said it, go and Google it for yourself and then be mad at the people that came up with those answers instead.
And that being said, that's a good point, Space. I have seen a lot of younger furries get irritated, especially on TikTok. Like, they'll make a simple hybrid and they'll call it their original species and they'll say, original species, do not copy, do not make. And then other people are like, well, we can make this because it's just a dog and a dragon. Like, you can't copyright that. And then the younger furry will get confused because, like, but it's my original species. And they're confusing their original character, like, don't copy my character, with original species, don't copy my species. Right. Of course, nobody should copy your character. That's your character. That's your species. It's your original design. But that is not the same thing as an original species. That's an original character. I feel like an original character and original species gets mixed up on accident a lot of the time with younger furries. And just make sure you keep that in mind. You could say, hey, don't copy my persona or my character. But you can't say, hey, don't copy my species if it's something that's super simple, like a hybrid.
And we can do a separate topic about don't copy my character versus an actual species and do a little bit more of a detailed breakdown of that. But we're not going to go into that because it's not what the show's about. Not today, at least.
Yes. Before we move on to Manokits, though, we do have to discuss open species and closed species. So Manokits are specifically an open species, which means it's a species that is free for anybody to make a design from. They could still be rules that you must follow with an open species, and I know there are some with Manokits, and we'll go over those later, but you don't have to ask permission to make one, and you don't have to pay any kind of fee in order to make one either.
Now, if you're looking at, let's say, like an open species, like you're looking to create a new persona, but you're not quite sure on the rules, just type into Google, type in the species, and then type in the rules, and see if there is an original species for that, and see if the rules do exist.
Yeah.
Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. It just depends.
Yeah, so like if you want to make a Manokit, you could Google Manokit design rules or Manokit rules and information will pop up. Same with Dutch Angel Dragons. Dutch Angel Dragon rules, Circle rules, all of that. It's all available for you in Google.
Don't even get me started with Dutch Angel Dragon rules. My God, they're worse than Sonic fans.
Oh my God. I
They
feel like they've
flip
mellowed out
out
over the years.
Well, probably because they've been smoking. But
Or they're older now.
yeah, they just don't have time for it anymore. What's a closed species?
So a closed species is the opposite side of that spectrum, right? They're also an original species, but they are not free for anyone to make. They are either solely for the creator to make, or they are solely for the creator and maybe other approved artists or friends. Sometimes you can adopt a design from the artist if you want one of the closed species, or you could pay for a custom, or you could pay them in order to make your own. It can vary from owner to owner, but oftentimes they are just closed off. It means they're the only person who can make that species. This could be for a variety of reasons, right? Maybe the species is really personal to that person, or maybe it's a species that they are using in order to develop a book or an animation of some kind, a game,
a movie.
Right? So the copyright could vary depending on that as well. There's a lot of different regions. A lot of people will roll their eyes at closed species like, how dare you limit other people's creativity? But it's like, well, they might have their own reason. If you really want to make your own, then create your own original species. You don't have to rely on other artists to create cool looking creatures for you to base your OCs off of. Create your own creature. Don't be mad at people who want to make a closed species.
I thought you said I thought you like cut off for a second.
Nope,
So I have a thought here for this closed species part. What would an adoptable be? Like, just in general, or would those be under a closed because it's a type of, I don't know, character, maybe persona that someone's created, but then no one else can have it because you've adopted it?
No, see, now you're confusing OCs and original species again, right?
Yeah.
An adoptable as a whole, that's just a character. And until that adoptable is bought, that adoptable is technically a character that belongs to the artist selling it. And as soon as they sell it, now that character belongs to the person selling it. Sell it. Smell it? Did I say smell it? Whatever.
Damn, usually I'm the one that's messing up on words.
It's been a long day.
Because I have a cold, that's why.
But yeah, so if it's an adoptable, oftentimes that's not the same thing as a closed species, because an adoptable could be any animal, right? It could be a hybrid, it could be just one animal, it could be a fantasy creature, but a species is a bit different.
Be cool if someone like owned a brand called OG Specs, which is just original species, and then they could just like buy up all the different like original species out there.
And make them all open.
Yeah, just have like this empire.
Oh my god.
That'd be so cool.
Oh my god, that would be amazing.
So moving on to our next part, now that we understand what open species and closed species are and how they're not related to original characters, the actual topic of our show, Manokits.
Manokits. I remember the first time I saw a Manokit, it was a fursuit at FWA, and I was like, oh my god, what is that thing? It's like a dinosaur shark fluffy thing. Ah, it's so cute.
I'm not gonna lie, I always thought that Manokits were those like airplane sharks.
I can see how you could confuse the two. Totally.
They're similar, but they're not the same. Obviously.
Instead of dorsal fins, it's airplane fins.
Yeah, right?
We gotta have an episode about airplane furries.
We really do. There's some really cool fursuits out there. When I initially came across that subject, I was like, what the hell is this?
This is a little off topic, but are the airplane furry things, are those an open species? Is that a species somebody owns, or is it just a concept, like a hybrid that's been floating around for so long that it's just,
I don't know.
Like, I don't
know. I feel like if it is a hybrid, I wonder if you can take that hybrid and then create your original species from that.
Maybe.
That would be weird. Can you imagine? It's like someone's like on the cusp of creating their original species and all of a sudden, bam, someone else scoops it up from below you. It just does it. I wonder if that's happened before.
Helicopter furry. It's just tails.
Oh my god. Helicopter furries. That would be like helicopter moms.
Oh my god, no.
Anyways,
Manokits.
Manokits. So it's not like Menno or Minnow.
That would have been a fun pull A on that word, though. Manokits. It's just like a. What if that's what baby Manokits are called?
Oh,
Manokit.
Minnows. Well, I mean, they technically do like swim in schools.
That would be a fun name for a Manokit. It's just Minnow.
You got Mano and Minnow.
Oh.
One's manly, one's not.
Oh my god, okay. So, Manokits are an original species, and they are inspired by two different things. They're inspired by foxes and sharks. And if you break down the word Manokit, Mano is shark in Hawaiian, and kit is short for kitsune, which is the word fox in Japanese. So it's a fox shark. Just like how we mentioned earlier, it's not just a simple hybrid between a fox and a shark, right? They took inspiration from those two animals and combined their inspiration into making a completely unique animal.
Yep.
So what do they look like?
Okay, so this next part, and this is going to go on all the way down the list. A lot of their designs and a lot of the characterizations are so contradictory to themselves, along with the information that we've come up with. Because one website says one thing, another website says another, and we can't really find the original, documentation of it. But to summarize, it would be having fluffy fur bodies, shark-like dorsal fins, tails, raptor-like bodies, squinted eyes, and long, fluffy ears with a uniquely shaped muzzle.
The muzzle is one of the most unique parts to me.
Yeah.
Like the way their
And the
nose
tail.
is built up and the way their teeth are, like their face is a very unique shape.
What really kills me, though, is just we'll get to the fluffy part in a little bit. There's two types of Manokits, though. There are beach dwellers and there are tribal Manokits.
Mm-hmm.
Did I say mantle, like Manolo? Barry Manilow.
Oh no!
Make Barry Manilow into a Manokit.
Shut your mouth. Why don't you go over beach dwellers?
I will go over beach dwellers. Beach dwellers are more aquatic by nature. Their bodies are more efficient in the water than on land, and they are often found by divers. Their tails tend to be larger, and they are more top-heavy and waddle on land.
Little waddlies.
I want to see them. I want to see if a fursuit Manokit just kind of like waddling and then all of a sudden just toppling over. Just because.
God.
Beach dweller Manokits are basically derps, is what they are.
They sound derpy.
They sound really derpy.
Cute. And then the other type is called a tribal Manokit. These are more efficient on land, so they're not as waddly. They don't fall over as easy. And they're often found near mountains and forests that are on the coast. So a lot of times you'll find a beach and there'll be some mountains nearby, there'll be some forests, but they still stick near the coast, but more inland. Their tails could be a bit smaller, and they have more raptor-like bodies that can help them climb up cliffs. So if you see a beach Manokit, there's no way that thing could climb up a mountain, right? It would fall all over itself. But tribal Manokits, their bodies are shaped a bit differently, and they can manage that type of behavior. It's kind of like, when you think of evolution, if something starts to, over hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, go more inland for various reasons, then their bodies will change slightly.
Adapt to it.
Yeah.
So, like, a beach dweller, for instance, can't go, they can go on land, but they're not going to be as successful as a tribal Manokit. And if a tribal Manokit tried to go into the water, chances are they're going to drown because they can't swim very well.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is it's the way that the body mass, or it's
distributed differently.
Yeah, it's distributed differently. And so therefore, they're kind of like if a buoy was top heavy, but kind of not, it would just like lay on flat on its side and then you kind of be stuck there.
Yeah.
Not a very good sight, not pleasant.
I know on the main website for Manokits, it did mention that the beach dwellers can swim at about 60 miles per hour, but they cannot run at all on land. Whereas the tribal Manokits, they can run on land, right? That's like their shtick. So their strengths and their weaknesses kind of switch. It's flip-flopped.
But see, here's where the contradicted information comes from. So while we're following an amino apps kind of page based off of all the information they have there, but then Manokit on Wikifur, which is like this tiny little excerpt from like a news, it looks super small and there's not very much information there. It says that Manokits are very poor swimmers due to their body's high center of gravity. It doesn't specify whether it's the tribal or if it's the beach dweller. It just says Manokits as like a whole. So it's really frustrating. This is where when we were coming out with like the notes for this, I'm like, there's a lot of information here that doesn't seem right.
Yeah. And just honestly, by looking at a Manokit, while they do have like shark tails, that's the only thing about them that reads, I can swim. Everything else looks heavy, and fur is heavy, and sure, there could be fur that's water repellent, but that's not meant for creatures that dive and swim around a ton. That's meant for animals that are surface swimmers or who just live near water, like ducks and stuff, right? Or certain dogs who have double coats. It's just, we'll talk about that later, but it's just interesting.
What's interesting, though, about beach dweller, though, this is some of the other interesting conflicting information, is the name beach dweller itself makes you think that they just dwell on the beach. But there's also lore that they go to the bottom of the ocean and they swim in schools of fish. And it's like, what? It's so confusing and it makes no sense. So I would say the information we're about to give to you is 50% accurate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which you could say, take it with a grain of salt. Do not get mad at us if we get it wrong.
Yeah, if we get it wrong, we are reading and we are about to go over the rules of creating a Manokit. So Manokits are an open species. So you can create one. You don't have to pay anybody, you don't have to ask permission, but there are some rules that you have to follow. I am reading these verbatim from one of the two most official looking websites that we can find. Some of this information might be a little bit conflicting, some of it might not be. So like Space said, take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
All right, so we have Manokits can be literally any color you wish, but it helps to keep in mind that they're from Hawaii. These guys are not a sexualized figure. Do not make them as one, which means no, not safe for work art whatsoever. Small breasts can be on females, but just no nipples.
Why nipple?
That
drives me
is
nuts.
for tribal specifically. Tribal ones can have breasts but no nipples, but the beach dwellers cannot have them at all.
What kills me though is if we're going tribal, like think of something that's tribal, they have breasts and they have nipples. So it seems weird to have something that has breasts but no nipples. What's the point of having the breast if you don't have the nipple?
Yeah, unless it's just some kind of protection, like for your rib cage. But
are they like what is it?
Fatty tumors?
Ambiguous? Ambiguous, isn't that what it is? Like you can't tell.
Oh, you mean androgynous?
Androgynous. Would these be considered? I don't even think they could be considered androgynous because they're allowed to have breasts. But then what if you're a male that has breasts, but you like, that's the confusion that I have here. Like, why have the option if you're not going to go the extra mile and put the nipple on? That doesn't make sense.
I know the reason for no nipples is because they have no reason for them. They don't produce breast milk because they don't have any reproductive organs.
So then there's no need for the breast then.
Yes.
Because the breasts are for that reason.
Yes.
So why have the breasts and not the nipple?
It must just be a simple design choice, I guess.
Yeah.
It would have made more sense for them to say no boobs, ever.
Yeah, just say, exactly. Just straight body. There you go.
Now, in the rules, it's very explicit. It's very prominent that they're saying these guys are not angel dragons. Please do not add wings or horns to them to keep you and your kit from being bashed on. The only exceptions are extra fins or spikes, but be careful on how you lay these out. Right? So they want to be very sure that you don't make it look too much like an angel dragon. And that is one thing I have noticed with original species is that a lot of them tend to be fluffy dragon-esque shaped creatures with long ears and long tails. So many people fall into this trap, including me. I created an original species in middle school that I still mess with today that also falls into that fluffy dragon-esque thing with long ears and a long tail. So you have to be very careful to not make one creature look like another creature. You have to be very intentional with how you draw it to not make a Manokit look like an angel dragon, look like a circle, look like a whatever.
Are there any rules in here that specifically says you cannot hybrid this species?
Yes.
Okay. Without that going further, is there any rules on here saying that the species can't wear like gear that helps them fly?
No.
Okay. See, that's where like I think having a species is cool, but I don't like having the limitations of rules. It just makes it pointless for me.
Well, see, that's where it goes into just making your own creature if you don't want to follow the rules of somebody else's, you know what I mean?
Because I want to hybrid the fuck out of a Manokit. But if I can't...
You just really like being a little scientist with your creatures, don't you?
Well, I'm just thinking like for if I were to design a Manokit for me, I would have to be, if I can't like have physical wings be like the actual like on the feature themselves, it's going to be like a vest or a jacket that they put on and then they zip up and then it allows them to kind of like have enhanced flying abilities without it actually being part of their actual species.
Yeah, if it's something you can invent and throw on there, then I can get that.
Accessories!
They also said that please stay original with your designs. Of course, you can make your own for free and you can also sell adopts. Again, no visible genitals. They do not have reproductive organs. It says babies are not born live. Instead, they are made with the couple's magic abilities and the baby is developed in a coconut, which is so cute. I love that. So that's why they don't have reproductive organs. That's why they can't have nipples. They don't have any junk in their trunk. They just kind of say, oh, I'm magical and I want a baby. Give me that coconut right there and we'll make one.
I'm sad that there's no sploogie because I like you.
Space, you're just a whore.
No, I am, but like it's just part of the process of splooging. Like, okay, they're not born live. Instead, they are made with couples' magic abilities. What are those abilities of nothing but sex? That's what it is. It's a magical
maybe it's like
sex.
Pokemon where you put two in the daycare and then the daycare person's like, I don't know where this came from, but there's an egg for you.
Oh my god. You know, what'd be funny. Okay, if someone created a Manokit, but they had an allergy to coconut.
Oh, that would suck.
Yeah, that'd be so great. But so there was another site that said that the babies are born alive. So that's why it's a live birth. And so there's another piece of conflicting information. So I can't like for sure 100% say that babies are not born live or they are born live.
That's the other conflicting thing. One website says that babies are not born live because they're born through coconut. And then another website says that they are born live. And it's like, born through what? The coconut? So is it like, are you saying that an egg doesn't come out of the coconut? A little Manokit does. Right. So I don't know. That's another conflicting thing.
Yeah.
And there's more fluff on the ears in order to help give the Manokit more amplified sound of hearing since they aren't able to fully open their eyes. And the reason they can't fully open their eyes is because they are so used to swimming in the deep that the darkness of the ocean has kind of affected their eyesight, their eyeballs. So when they come up to the surface, they have to keep them squinted or closed because the sun is too bright. And that's another thing that's conflicting to me because it says that the beach dwellers, they can come up on the beach, and it also says that they're often seen by divers, and you can only dive so far as a diver. Divers do not dive deep enough where the sun is not showing through the water.
Yeah, and usually if they are, that it's like a whole different
situation. If their
situation.
eyes were that affected by being in dark water for that long, then they would not be on the surface very often.
Yeah.
And then that also, tribal Manokits don't go in the water really at all. So why are their eyes still shut? Shouldn't theirs have evolved to be open now? Because how the hell are they surviving with their eyes shut? So I don't know. That's something. Like, I love the squinty eyes as a design choice, but when it comes to the lore, it does not make sense to me.
There's other issues with what you talked about as well. Like if you think about it, if you're going deep sea diving, essentially is where it is, where it's no light. There's a reason why you don't see deep sea animals up towards closer to the surface because the pressure changes. Mm-hmm. So you're telling me that this Manokit can go from deep pressure up to beach, like just in general, no issues whatsoever. Like there would definitely be a body design that you would want to make sure you stick with. And then of course the eyes as well makes a huge difference. The other issue I have with this is more fluff on the ears does not make for amplified sound. It dampens the sound, if anything. When you want to amplify sound, you want to have as much open space possible. And the last thing you want to do is put foam or fur near something like that because it does the complete opposite. So it's almost as if this person who created this species had no idea what they were talking about when they were creating the species.
And y'all might be thinking, Sparrow Space, you're taking this too seriously. Maybe we are. Like, you could just have fun and make it a species, but if you're going to go through the effort of making, like, strict rules as to why something is the way it is,
at least know your shit.
At least do a little bit of research, right?
Yeah.
So, like,
exactly.
We can't be taking it too seriously, sure. You can have fun and create a Manokit and not care about the shit at all. That's fine. But it is just something worth bringing up as artists and as storytellers ourselves.
And, you know, I look at things when I see something and it looks great, awesome, I don't want to pick it apart. We've done that in the past where it's like, we've done art critiques and there'll be some ones where I'll be like, I really have no critiques. And that's just because it was just kind of like perfect. But in this particular case where information is key and there's a lot of conflicting information, it just makes no sense. Before we go on about the different things about them, to me, the person that creates this would have to be someone who is immature. This is what I'm drawing from it. Immature, doesn't know much knowledge about, sea versus land, and doesn't really think about the actual aspects of how their features actually work.
Yeah.
Really, that makes sense. And so they kind of just threw this together and then created it. People thought it was cute, but when you actually dive into it and you look at the details, the skeletal structure of this, it's awful. Like in my mind, it's awful.
Like a lot of people will make a cute design and they're like, oh, I want to make this original species. Now I have to figure out why it looks like this. And instead of altering the design they came up with to match the reasons why or to match the lore, it's almost like they try to match the lore to the design, which can be iffy if your lore is based on a real place or based on a real thing like the ocean or Hawaii or what have you, right? So it kind of helps if you develop your lore and your species together. You don't build them independently of one another. They build off of each other.
Now, the information that we're pulling is from an amino post, and I'll make sure to include the link in the podcast so you can look at it, because there is 2 specific times they talk about breasts with no nips, but the information completely cancels each other out. Because in one of them, it says females can have small breasts, just no nipples. No sexualized figure. But then down the line, it says females may have small breasts, just no nips. This only applies to the tribal. So why didn't you say that at the top then?
Mm-hmm.
So now it's, once again, conflicting information. Is that actually true or not?
Yeah.
So I just want to rip this species apart. But they're so cute that I can't.
God. All right. So we've talked about Manokits. We've talked about the rules. We've talked about a whole bunch of things.
Well, they got an extremely fluffy mane and chest, too. That's the other thing.
Oh, yeah, that's right. They do have a...
I point that out because I asked Sparrow, I'm like, how annoying would it be if you had to go from sea to land and back and forth if you had this big fluffy mane and chest? Can you imagine the water and the weight that would bring down? You'd have to I don't know, full on squeeze out the water before you could actually do anything.
I mean, someone could say, and the last bullet point on their list is magic abilities. So I guess somebody could trump all of this by saying, physical appearance doesn't matter. All these things don't matter because they're magic. So when they get out of the water, they could just dry themselves off with their magic. Or, but then why can't they use their magic to fucking open their eyes, huh?
Right. And okay, if these are extremely aquatic animals as far as the beach dwellers go, extremely fluffy mane and chest would be anything but aquatic at all.
Yeah.
In fact, it would slow you down.
The only fluffy sea creature I could think of is the mammoth crab. That's the only one I could think of.
Yeah, that's about it. Retractable claws like a feline. It's the first time a cat is ever mentioned. It's design-wise, so it's interesting. I would have said, retractable claws like Wolverine.
You would think they would have webbed feet or something.
Yeah, that's actually interesting. I haven't thought about that. Anyways, so now you kind of know the rules. And like we've said, you can look at the rules if you want to and see how strict they are and odd they are. But let's meet the creator of the Manokits. Why don't you talk about that?
All right. So there's a lot of information with the creator of Manokits. But just to get us started, the Manokits were originally created by Dubmutt. However, the species has been handed off, and I'm so sorry if I butcher your name, Yoskavol or Yoskavel on Twitter. And we'll put that in the description as well so you can have their @ But the original creator was Dubmutt. And Dubmutt has a lot of controversy behind them. So Dubmutt was a fairly active member in the furry community up until a handful of years ago. So they stopped being in the fandom around 2019, I do believe. They were active fursuit maker on Facebook and on Twitter. And again, they left the fandom around 2019. And because of this, they had to cancel a lot of unstarted fursuit commissions. And they refunded some people, didn't refund other people, and attempted to finish some that they had already started. It was kind of a hot mess when that had happened. And there are some bewares on Dubmutt as they began to leave the fandom without communicating and telling their customers that they were leaving. And for 2, without refunding people that wanted to pull from their queue. And that being said, they did refund some people and they didn't refund others. And there's a lot of different things that go into this, right? If you want to do more research on this controversy specifically, there are some bewares on the Artist Beware website. And I think there might be some on Fursuit Review, but if you Google Dubmutt controversy or Dubmutt fursuit reviews, things like that, then there is some information that comes up.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And, there isn't one true answer as to why they left the fandom. I couldn't find an official statement by them or anything like
kind of
that.
Summarize. This is what we think might be the reason why.
Yeah, we think it was just general mental health problems and life stress. And that can really make it hard to keep up with fursuit orders. And when you start to struggle with keeping up with your fursuit orders, there's a lot of social repercussion that comes with that. Right, your customers start to question, where are you? Where's my stuff? They'll start to make posts like, hey, is there anybody else who bought something from Dubmut that haven't seen, your fursuit yet? Or, things like that. And that can add to life stress. And I think that overall is kind of the straw that broke the camel's back and what made Dubmut leave. I'm not sure. I know with the specific Bewares we read, a couple of customers forced refunds on PayPal, which you can do. So I'm not going to say that Dubmut still owes people money. I'm not going to say that they do or don't, because I don't know. They could have refunded everybody and they're finished, right?
Yeah.
But if they do owe people money, then that's wrong, right? Or if they owe them a fursuit. You can't just leave without either giving somebody what they promised or giving them their money back, regardless of what mental health things you're going through in life. But it's been a handful of years since they have left. So by now, maybe they did refund everybody. I'm not sure. Wherever they are, Dubmut, if you are listening, which, God, I doubt it. I have not heard a crumb from them since 2019. But if they are, I hope you're doing okay. Like, I know leaving a fandom,
mental health sucks.
Like, it does, and life can be hard. And whatever personal struggle you're going through, I hope you're okay. And regardless if you still owe people money or a fursuit or what have you, I hope you still work through that, and I hope you still either can give people their money or give people the suit that they were expecting. But regardless, I hope you're alive and you're okay, right?
Like, overall, like, what they did, yeah, it wasn't okay. But we always want to make sure that when someone does leave, like, if it's under, like, fine circumstances, it's one thing. But when someone leaves just, like, at a rush, it makes you wonder, like, what's going on in their brain. And so, like, I have no negative things to say about Dubmut whatsoever. Must because of the mental health. It just sucks. I deal with it. You deal with it. Our listeners deal with it. Everyone knows how that goes. And sometimes it just feels like there's nowhere to go and the world's closing in on you. That's totally validated right there. But if you're going to make your mess, you got to also clean it up too.
Yeah.
That's my thing. Overall, when I'm looking and I'm thinking about the species as a whole, it makes sense why the species is the way they are if they have mental issues. Like, I don't even know where to begin on that one, but it could be the reason why their rules are so interesting and why this is that way and that is the other way. And it would make sense if they had more issues than just like depression, anxiety. Maybe they have a little autism. Maybe they just don't fully understand. And that's totally cool. It's totally fine. For me, as a whole, as a species, I just don't jive to it. And the reason being is just so much uncertainty of what I can and can't do. And rules are there to make it so that you can be certain what you can and can't do. And their rules are anything but that. They're kind of like rules that were published in a book by someone you have no idea who they are, but you can't verify or validate any of them, to be honest. Unless and guess if you got in contact with, was it Yoskavel or Yoskavel?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that's about it. But then again, like, it's too hard to tell. It's a cute species. They're adorable. I'd love to see them in fursuit and all that jazz. But as a species for me, I'll take a hard pass.
I almost prefer species that don't have magic abilities, because once you give something magic abilities, it almost feels OP in a way where it's like your design choices or your lore or what have you can be justified just by a magical poof. Like, it's this way because magic. And while that's cool and fine, it's just not my personal favorite. I like to have stories that are backed up by strong lore or strong world building. And that's just my personal preference. When it comes to just looking at the design and ignoring the lore or the reason why things look the way they look, if I ignore the lore and just look at a Manokit, those things are fucking adorable. I love them. I love the squinty little eyes. Anybody who has a fursuit of a Manokit is a brave soul, because I know your vision is terrible. Talk about getting in character, right? The tails are real swooshy and cute, and I just think they're super cute, and the face is really unique. I love their snouts and their teeth. I love how they look, but I feel like I wouldn't make a Manokit personally simply because I just don't dig magical creatures that are magic just because. And that goes with a lot of things, right? If I were to make an original species, or to make somebody else's original species, I should say, I would much rather have something that has stronger lore with a solid design. It doesn't have to be just cute, right? But that's just me. Overall, I think Manokits are really cool. I do wish there was an official website. I know Dutch Angel Dragons has like an official site with all their rules, and they're very clearly stated. They have a lot of good references, a lot of good pieces of art that you can look at to see what different design choices look like. But when it comes to Manokits, it's all just kind of floating around on the internet. It's hard to get one verified website, which is a shame.
Yeah.
But I do like this species overall.
And that's pretty much it. There's not much more to really talk about other than the fact that I just want to go to the beach now. And I miss the beach.
I gotta say, my favorite thing about the Manokit is that they're born through a coconut. That's just the cutest little... I love it.
It's just, that was like when you were talking about it too, like they're born through a coconut. I'm like, what? Like, what do you mean? What do you mean they're born through a coconut? That makes absolute no sense.
You crack it open and you're like, "Hello, little child, welcome to the world."
I mean,
because if it's like an egg, then maybe it eats the coconut meat on the inside while it's developing. You know?
Right, that's what I was thinking. But like at first, I'm just like, what about the whole sploogies and like sexual magic and stuff like that? And so. It also makes me wonder with the species itself, because of all the magic, maybe they don't like talking about sex. And that could be a reason why there's so much weirdness or oddity around the whole, like, no nipples or, you know, no sexualized, like, species, which I can kind of see as well.
I can understand why people would want to, like, because a lot of original species I've seen, like Dutch Angel Dragons and Manokits both have a very strong no sex rule. And I can get it, right? If you're a public figure in the fandom and you want to keep yourself safe for work or whatever, I get that. But it's also just, there's another reason why people might not want to have an original species that's sexualized if it has anything to do with being a caretaker of some kind, or like, for example, I'm thinking of a dragon species type thing, and I don't know what the hell I'm doing with it yet, but it's based on dragon toys that come to life to take care of the child they've been assigned. And that is a species idea that I would never, like, that would be a rule that it can't be sexualized because it involves caring for children. And I would not want to give that to be an open door for people who are creeps, right? But if it's just a creature like a Manokit or like a Sergal, I don't think Sergals have that rule. They definitely don't. I've seen a lot of Sergal penis on my For You page. But like,
For You, is that something different?
Oh, well, that's a TikTok word. I should say my Twitter dash. But like, I don't know, it just feels like it limits a side of the fandom that is so important to a lot of people, you know, safely exploring your sexuality. But again, it's up to the person who created the species. Like, if you want to have a sexual character, then create your own sexual character. You don't have to pull from original species if that's a rule, right?
I wonder I want to know which came first, the Manokit or the Sergal.
I think Sergals came first.
There are some similarities there.
The Sergals, I think, came before Dutch Angel Dragons and before Manokits.
Yeah, that's just an interesting... Sergals are so odd to me. They had like that pizza like shaped face, like a cheese wedge pizza.
Cheesecake.
It almost... They could be like, oh my God, think about this. We're side tangenting, but that's what makes this podcast fun. I'm just imagining like a Sergal that goes under the water and all they do is like their head bobs above the water and that's a boat. That's their thing. They give friends like rides and stuff and then, you know, they have like a regular body underneath it.
Oh my God. People shit on Sergals too much, but I think they're cool.
They're cool. They really
are. They got
are.
a good head shape.
Kind of.
They're very cheese, but they're very good.
I mean, they're good for breaking open things. So
email us in if you want us to do an episode on Sergals. I think that would be interesting. If you have your own original species and you want to share it, or you have a character based on an original species that already exists, feel free to email us. Share your characters. We always love seeing them. Our email is talktothemuzzle@gmail.com. And we also have our Telegram chat, and that will be linked below. It's really awesome community, not too big, not too small, but always really friendly.
And you can always reach out to us on Twitter, which is @FromTheMuzzle, and that's super simple right there. But as always, we thank you guys for listening in, and we will see you guys next time.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.